open an image. This is an image taken by one of my students named Gavin. And this image was taken with his phone and it is unedited. So I'm going to go through some basic flow where we crop an image, adjust the contrast, the colors, and these are just some basic editing steps. So in Photoshop, the first step is to crop my image. Now I want to think about what am I cropping this for? Before I think about the size, what I'm going to think about is the composition. So I am going to create, let's see, I'm going to think first about my focal point. I like this idea of letting it run off the page. I'm changing this image entirely. I hope that's okay with Gavin. Let's see, I like this balance. Yeah, so I like that this image is running off the page. The objects in the background are not bothering me. They repeat colors. There's a lot of variety in shape. It's filling the space nicely. Utilized. So that works for me. So that's step one, crop. Very simple. All right. Step two, we're going to adjust our image's contrast using an adjustment layer. So this is with Photoshop iOS. We add a new layer and we're going to adjust what are called the levels. This is the way that I do it. Again, there's other ways to do this, but this is the flow I like. So you have this histogram and you have a black circle here. This represents your shadows. And if what I like to do is bring it in, and there's no direct formula that I can give you. You got to just kind of look at what's making the image look better, more detailed. This white circle right here, these are your highlights. So I'm going to bring this over. Again, no formula. Just slight improvements. And generally this is the middle tones and I usually leave those alone. I don't mess with those very much ever. All right, and when I like that, I'm ready to go to the next step. This adjustment layer will be color balance. So color balance is like fixing the white balance that you took the image in. Now, when you use these sliders, if you go one way or the other, it's gonna sort of tint your image. So your goal here is accuracy. I know that this dandelion, it was white. I know the things behind it are green, and I definitely wanna make sure that I can see the difference between them. I'm pulling some blue into here, and I like that it's bringing in these blues and this purple right over there. I'm vibing with that. I'm digging it. But again, I want to keep the dandelion itself white. I still want to see these whites that are in here. So I am happy with my color. Again, the idea here, wait, maybe I'm not exactly happy. Let me play with that a little bit for a sec. Okay, there, I'm happy with this. I'm going to do the thing that makes the image look awesome. This is when you go to next level. So here I'm going to click on the bottom layer. Notice in these layers here, I have the image layer and then the adjustment layers. When you're doing the next steps with brush adjustments, you have to be on the bottom layer or you're not making any changes. So what we're going to do now is something called burning and dodging. Now let's just talk about the difference between them. When you are burning, you're going to want to burn areas of your image that are too bright, that you want the exposure to be a little darker. So in order to do that, we have to set up our brush. So if you click the three dots, then you're going to change your range here because by default it's in midtones. When you're burning, you want to burn for shadows. So you choose shadows. Next, you want to choose your exposure. The exposure, I always start generally with it at about 25% or so. And then your brush, you want the hardness down to 0 so that it blends. The size of your brush, I use a bigger or smaller brush depending on where I'm working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and burn a little bit on the dandelion here. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm trying to bring out some more of the details. So the shadows that would be between these little the soft part of this. So let me show you, if we were just looking at burning, let's look at what dodging does. So dodging, first of all, set up your brush. Dodging would be to take areas of your image that are too dark and you want to bring out highlights in those images. Again, default would be that it's at the mid-tone. So you want to, when you're dodging, you want highlights. Hardness of your brush, make sure it's at 0. Exposure, again, I start with 25%. You could change that. And the size of your brush, make it be for where you're working. So I'm going to be dodging some of the bottom where the, I don't know, like over here where the green is, because I'm going to want to bring out some of my highlights here. So let me look at the size of that brush again. Okay, so kind of big. All right, so I'm going to dodge right over here, right over down here, and in this corner over there. All right, again, let's look at, you might be saying, well, what happened? Here, undo it. Before, after. So I did it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And now my image has more details. So that right there is basic editing steps. There's one more that Photoshop hasn't added yet, and that's the ability to sharpen. So until that feature comes, it'll be headed soon. I imagine it's going to be in the smart filters. Because on the desktop, I would have done filter, sharpen, unsharp, mask. But this is where we stand. Those are basic editing steps. So I'm all done. I'm going to send out my image, quick export as a JPEG, and send it to my camera roll. And there you go. Save image. All done.